And it's the Donovan Live Postgame Show on a Wednesday night. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave DiNatale alongside Jim Donovan. Happy to have you with us here on WKYC's Facebook Live. And boy, so we finished last night's show, just kind of getting ready for the evening and just kind of watching how the Cavaliers were ending their season. And just before 10 o'clock, about 9:45 or so, our time here, 3 hours away, in Los Angeles, or 4 hours away in Los Angeles, 3-hour time difference, Magic Johnson just abruptly decides, I'm done with the Lakers. Yeah. I'm out as president of basketball operations. He had, and I know you were watching most of that, about a 40-minute impromptu press conference. Mm-hmm. And in a way, I'm not surprised, because it's not easy to be LeBron James's, general manager or basketball operations guy. We know that. But the fact that Johnson didn't tell Jeannie Buss, the owner of the Lakers, didn't tell Rob Pelinka, the general manager, and just went up and said, that's it, I'm done, I want to go back to having fun. I was stunned with that last night. It was incredible.
Yeah, it really was. But there's history with this. Magic Johnson, he dabbled as the head coach of the Lakers.
Yes.
And he lasted 16 games.
Yeah.
He dabbled as a late-night talk show host. And
he did about 16 shows.
Lasted about 16 shows. And now he's done this. Mm-hmm. And I think a couple of things weigh into it. This is a much bigger job than he ever thought it was, to any team, not just the Lakers. And I think he does like being Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
And he's a billionaire many times over because of his prowess in businesses, and he's kind of involved with the Dodgers. But as far as going and scouting players, he didn't even show up at the Final Four.
Yeah.
And his beloved Michigan State Spartans were in the Final Four. But, he didn't go there as the president of a team, and a team that right now needs reconstruction,
yes,
even though they have LeBron James. He didn't show up there. He got involved in stupid tampering situations where he was fined $50,000 in one episode and $500,000 in another episode because he was being Magic, and he talked to players, and he talked about players who were on other teams. Mm-hmm. As far as the mechanics of the deal, he wanted to fire Luke Walton. He got the blessing of the owner. She really wasn't all in on that. Yeah. She likes Luke Walton. But, if you're going to fire him, fire him. And he was going to do that today if he was still the president of the team following the end of their regular season last night. But I think this is just an overwhelming job that he realized this takes up a lot of time. And, he just kind of floats through life. He is Magic.
He is Magic. Now, I was driving home last night, and I was listening to ESPN Los Angeles, and I heard, our good friend Dave McMenamin, who was the Cavs beat writer for ESPN.com. Now he works with the Lakers for ESPN.com. He was talking, and Jorge Sedano was talking. And it reminded me a little bit. They talked about Magic Johnson's approach to being an executive. He didn't understand the hours and the time that it takes and all the sleeve rolling you have to do to run a basketball franchise, especially in the 21st century. And you know what it reminded me of for a second? It's apples and oranges, but it reminded me of Mike Holmgren as the president of the Cleveland Browns, and not maybe having a real understanding that you can't just show up and work 4 or 5 hours a day. It's a long, tedious, tough job to be the front man of a professional sports organization.
Yeah, it is, and they're a mess. The Lakers are a mess right now. Because you have a coach that believed he was going to be fired, a coaching staff along with the head coach that definitely believed they were all going to be fired. I don't know if he really, Magic being the he, I don't think he got along with the GM, Rob Pelinka, who apparently does put a lot of work into it. And I think the Lakers, Brian Windhorst had a very good point today on one of his many his appearances on ESPN. But I would say this, he made a very good point that the Lakers have to get out of this family business.
Yes.
And they have to get on with, this is a corporation. It's a very important corporation in the NBA landscape. A very, very historic franchise. And Jeannie Buss is she's fired her brother. That was a family situation. Her former boyfriend Phil Jackson leaves the nest, leaves the situation. She's trying to carry on in her dad's footsteps, and those are big footsteps. But I mean, if you look at the way the Lakers have done things, they surround you in this purple and gold wrap of Laker history, and sometimes it doesn't work. The Celtics were guilty of that many times over, that they kept trying to bring in, reinvent themselves through former Celtics. Right. And Danny Ainge, I realize, is a great former Celtic, but he's really all in on being the GM. There are guys that know how to do this. Not just because they play for the Lakers. And I think that's what they rely on. Oh, there's that magic touch, so to speak, play on words there, of being a Laker. Yeah. But it isn't a magic touch. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And it's going to have to happen here in Cleveland. And it's going to definitely have to happen with the L.A. Lakers. But let me say this right now. The Cleveland situation looks a lot better than the L.A. Lakers situation.
Yeah, and this is kind of the elephant in the room. I mean, so much talk was about the dynamic between Jeannie Buss, Magic Johnson, and Luke Walton. In your mind, how did LeBron James play into all of this? The fact that he for the first time in his career, he missed significant time for an injury.
He played 55 games.
Played 55 games. I mean, and they didn't make the playoffs. Right. I mean, he's got a 4-year contract. Well, 1 year's out, and they won 35 games.
Well, Magic Johnson met with LeBron and Rich Paul, LeBron's agent. He met with them on Saturday night, and there was no mention of what ended up happening last night. In other words, him quitting the team and stepping down as the president of basketball operations. Again, now, that was conceived on a 3-hour meeting.
Yes.
On that Sunday night. Magic Johnson met with LeBron James out in L.A. for 3 hours, and the deal was done. And LeBron told his people, put it out there, we're going to sign with the Lakers. And I think at that point, Magic Johnson, in true Magic Johnson form, went, hey, I did my job. Right. I got LeBron James here. But there was a lot of other things that had to happen. In other words, you had to get somebody else, and he didn't. And then, then the whole Anthony Davis thing was a mess. It really has been, I really think it is a guy that probably, a couple of things. Number one, doesn't know how to do the job. And number two, when he did get into it, and you touched on this in your opening remarks, he didn't put the office hours in. He wasn't looking at tape. No. He wasn't with the team a lot of times. It was a bad situation. You had a guy that, be careful for what you wish for. And once he got in there, he went, oh my goodness, this is a mess.
Yeah, I can't do this. Now, and I remember this as all this was happening last night. I remember right before, like a few, maybe it was a week or less before that Sunday meeting, you and I did one of these shows, and we were talking about Magic Johnson kind of getting in front of the media in Los Angeles and saying at the time, look, I need 2 summers. If I'm going to turn the Lakers around and get us back to a championship team, I need not just this summer and whatever free agency is going to happen. And I'm sure at the time they thought, well, we're not only going to get LeBron, but we think we can get Paul George to come out with LeBron as well, or somebody of that caliber to come with LeBron. And we're going to need 2 summers to build this team. And if we can't do it, then I'm going to tell Jeannie Buss that fire me or I'm out. I can't do it. He didn't even get to. He got 1 summer in, and this thing is blown apart.
Well, the other thing, Dino, is that I think the LeBron piece of the puzzle was probably going to be the easiest.
Oh, and
I mean, that's a mouthful when you think of what we have gone through and sweated out all of these decisions that LeBron James has made in regards to his future and whether he was going to stay or leave. Here in Cleveland, I mean, we sweated it out every day. Is he going to go to New York? Is he going to go? Is he going to go to L.A.? Is he going to go wherever? Is he going to leave Cleveland? So we went through that daily. But I really believe that the LeBron James piece of the puzzle, it will prove to be the easiest one for the Lakers.
I agree.
It's, can they get the trade done for Anthony Davis? Can they get Kawhi Leonard? Can they get Kyrie Irving to go out there? Can they get a coach now? All of these things. That's why I think Jeannie Buss has to. I mean, she sent 2 hearts in a message, in a tweet to Magic Johnson, who really basically, I mean, let's face it, stiffed her.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even tell her that he was quitting the team, and he held a 43-minute impromptu press conference outside the Laker locker room before they're going to go out on the floor and play the last game of the regular season. She's got to cut the Lakers out of this
Yes.
thing. You know, I mean, Byron Scott,
Yeah.
Brian Shaw, Kurt Rambis, all of these
Mitch
guys.
Kupchak,
Mitch
yeah.
Kupchak, all of these
Yeah.
former Lakers. I mean, I know they had great years with the Lakers. But Magic was a part of that as a player.
Yes.
As a player. Shaq was a part of that as a player. I mean, they need somebody that really knows how to run a basketball team. Now, that might be Rob Pelinka.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be him. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
I really think they need a guy
They
that
need
can
a guy
run a
that's got
basketball
experience, and Rob Pelinka is a guy that is a former agent, and I mean he was a heck of he was a good player on those Fab Five teams. He was an important player on those Michigan Fab Five teams. He's got basketball pedigree. I'm not trying to say he doesn't, but already, I mean, the odds, if you're a gambling person, the odds makers are already saying the guy with the biggest chance to go to LA is our old pal David Griffin, the former general manager of the Cavs, who was commenting on all this last night while working on NBA TV with former Cavaliers head coach Mike Fratello. I thought that was hysterical. All he needed was Danny Ferry and Chris Grant to come on the stage, and it would have been perfect.
And David Blatt.
But I was thinking, I'm like, could you imagine? I mean, I know Jeannie Buss has a lot of loyalty to Luke Walton, but I mean, could you see a scenario where David Griffin's your general manager or president of basketball operations, former Laker, championship head coach, Tyronn Lue goes out to LA to become the head coach? Two people to make LeBron happy and that have shown they can work with LeBron both on court and from a personnel standpoint? I don't know.
I really don't know. I would say this, that coaching LeBron James is not easy.
No.
And the first guy that would tell you that would be Ty Lue.
Yes.
He would tell you that. Ty Lue physically came apart.
Got worn out last year.
Physically, okay? I mean, there were times, Ty Lue missed games, periods of time.
Like 3 weeks, wasn't it?
Because of the strain of coaching the Cavaliers and coaching LeBron James. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if he would want to do. I don't know if
that's like stepping back into it all over again.
Right. It's one thing if you're going to coach a young Lakers team, that let's say they would get Williamson in the draft or whatever. You'd be coaching a young and Ball, but coaching LeBron again with all those expectations.
Yeah, and now
I don't know. You're right. I don't know if you'd want to do that.
You're also coaching a 35-year-old LeBron James.
Yes.
So that's different too. Right now, I have to tell you that team is a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those young kids that are on that team are so ticked off anyway because all of them were mentioned as trade bait for the Anthony Davis would-be trade at the trading deadline with the New Orleans Pelicans. And they're all saying, well, I mean, why would I have loyalty here? We're going to be traded. Yeah. I mean, we were mentioned in trade. All of them were mentioned as, take them all.
Yeah.
That's what they were going to do. So there is no core there.
Right.
And not even with LeBron.
There are no ring bearers.
Yeah, there are no ring bearers. They're a long way from even being able to sign up ring bearers. But I really believe right now, and I don't know if you can take solace in this, but the Cavs are looking like a sturdier ship right now than someone like the Lakers are.
I was
because
they know
they know what their plan is, and they took their lumps. They're going to roll the dice in the draft lottery. They're going to probably get they'd love to get the player, but they're probably going to get a really good player. I think that they have weeded out what they have and what they probably aren't going to have next year, and they have to make a decision on the coaching situation.
I thought you had a really interesting piece about this during Donovan Live tonight at 7. It's hard because more than any other sport, more than certainly the NFL, which the NFL, you're supposed to be able to be a competing team, no matter because of the way the rules are set up and salary cap, no matter what. Baseball, forget that you have salary cap, but you also have a lot of revenue sharing. The NBA, the fact that you can go from champion to lottery team because of one player and this idea that it's better to tank than it is to be a fringe playoff team. It's not easy. It's hard to go from 50 wins to 19 wins.
Yeah.
And now this is the second time, in this decade, this is the second time Cavaliers fans have had to go through this. And you even talked about last night, where you go from the shock of always being a playoff team, because you know number 23's here, to now all of a sudden it's the middle of April, and it's like, what do we do? Hello,
Yeah.
there's no playoffs.
Right.
It's very difficult on a fan base, but the Cavs at least look like they're prepared for whatever is going to be coming here in the future.
I think so. Yeah, I do. Again, now, I mean, they have to address the coaching situation, and the timing of that's going to be interesting because, I think a really heads-up head coach candidate would take a look at this and say, well, wait a minute, what are you going to do in the draft? What are you going to have in the draft? I mean, if the Cavs suddenly win the draft lottery, this becomes a very good job again.
Yes.
Very quickly, because you're going to be able to get the best player and you're going to be able to groom him and grow him and not have to put up with all this other stuff of, a guy leaving and a guy opting out and, signing a short deal, at least for a period of time. So it looks like a stable situation if all of that happens. The key will be, can you get the guy you want, and can you get him early enough that he's going to commit to you, and no matter what happens in that draft lottery. And then if you win the thing, now you've really hit the accelerator on the rebuilding.
Right.
And you're going to become pretty good pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, you get Zion, and I mean, even if you get a guy like R.J. Barrett, who declared today. I like him a lot. Now, people have compared him to like Evan Turner or something like that, the former Ohio State star, who's had a solid NBA career, not spectacular but solid. I like him more than Turner, but anyway, but if you get Zion and everything he brings to the table, well, then all of a sudden, the excitement level goes up. The phones start to ring in because people are going to want season tickets because they're going to want to see this kid play and all the things he can do. Then all of a sudden, if you're Dan Gilbert, you sit there and you go, this isn't such a bad situation. Having a tank year wasn't so bad.
Yeah. Well, I think, but there is something wrong with the sport that's an accepted, whether or not it's it's not written in, out there where you say, and you tank, but I mean, it's kind of like one of those hidden accepted sins that you go out and you say, well, we're going to tank. We're going to lose as many games as we can. We're going to be as bad as we can. I mean, I can remember the night that LeBron came into town with the Lakers and the national media had descended on Cleveland to cover the event. And you're talking with all of these national writers on these national publications that cover the NBA, and they're in here now for one night, unlike being here for April, May, and June during the playoff runs when the Cavs were going to the NBA Finals each and every year. But they're in here for the one night, and they're saying, hey, listen, the Cavs need to lose. Yeah. They need to lose every night.
Yep.
There's something wrong with that.
I know. I know. It's really. The league has tried to change the lottery rules and things like that, but I mean, this is still going on, and it's still, this idea that if you don't get a top, this is a year where you have a blue chip bona fide, guy there, but there's this idea where if you don't have a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick, then you're not going to get a franchise impact player. And it's difficult. A couple of messages that I thought were interesting from Judy. If you recall, think about how upset Kyrie Irving was reportedly when the Cavs started talking about using him as trade bait in those days of late June 2017, right after they lost the finals. There was always talk they got to get another superstar here, and there were whispers that maybe Irving was a part of a deal, and it was all downhill from there. To illustrate your point that why the Lakers teammates are frustrated because you're always being rumored. It's like, wait a minute. What did I do? Yeah.
Well, I would probably, she's right. And he was. And that's when he really convinced himself and his representatives, get me out of there. I want to get out of there. I would think that Kevin Love would have been in that boat a little bit because he was always being dangled out there as the fifth wheel of the team, a defensive liability, a matchup problem when they played Golden State. Or some of the other really good teams, but in particular Golden State. What are we going to do with him? Right. How do we play him, or do we play him? And I would imagine he was at least temperament and disposition and mood. Kevin Love had a much more peaceful year this year than he had in those great years when he was with the Cavaliers and they won the title or missed out and lost to the Golden State Warriors. I mean, there are times, really, I think sometimes when a player leaves a situation, they can reflect back on it, and something that we thought was exciting and great, they can say it was misery.
Yeah,
it was miserable.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would think that that locker room is a mess.
Oh, yeah.
A total mess. And has nothing to do with Magic.
No.
It has nothing to do, or his leaving anyway.
Yeah. And you just wonder, because there are going to be, this summer, while we're all worried about what the Cavs, not really worried, but we're going to sit back and watch what the Cavs do with the draft and in whatever free agent moves they can do as they start to relieve themselves of being in that luxury tax. There are big name players, starting, of course, with Kevin Durant, that are going to be out there this summer in free agency looking for the best fit, the best situation. And suddenly the Los Angeles Lakers may not be the best situation, despite the fact that LeBron James is there, despite the fact it's the NBA's signature franchise, because it looks like team turmoil.
The Clippers might be a better situation
absolutely.
than the Lakers, really. I mean, the Clippers made the playoffs. They may be a better situation. And Magic Johnson many, many times said last night, trying to paint a picture that really the Lakers are in good shape. They have LeBron, and we're one player away. They're more than one player away. But it's going to be difficult to get that player that he's talking about with the unstableness of that situation now. They will have to really paint this pretty, and more than just purple and gold to make it look pretty. They're going to have to realistically make that scenario look much better and very quickly to entice these big-name guys that you accurately described in free agency, convince them to come to Los Angeles and play for the Lakers.
I mean, you got Durant, you've got Leonard, you've got Thompson. I mean, there are players out there that could conceivably come right in and team up with LeBron and put you in a position where you could be a contending team in the Western Conference, despite how difficult the West is. But you got to make that happen. Two last kind of threads off of this. I was thinking about this, and I even asked some of the fans on Facebook. It's almost now, as Cavaliers observers or Cavs fans, it's almost like now we watch what happened last night with Magic, and it's almost like just pass the popcorn, because you sit there and you go, at least we don't have to deal with that drama. It's one thing if the Lakers were, going to the playoffs, and if they were a championship caliber team, then it might feel differently. But I gather from afar, fans here in Cleveland are still interested. No, they're not invested, but they're interested in the LeBron James soap opera whenever he is involved in something like this, even from a background point of view. Yeah,
he will always be linked to us here in Cleveland and how we feel towards him on that particular day. And it varies a lot of times. There's more of an understanding of him. And why I go back to what I said a lot of minutes earlier here, that I really think that Magic Johnson, and for the Lakers in general, getting LeBron will be the easiest thing that they will have accomplished as they try and get this team back to where it is. This is the 6th year in a row now. They have not made the playoffs. I mean, that's incredible. But here's the thing. I think LeBron, lifestyle and business opportunities, that was why he went out there. I'm not so sure it was because of the Lakers.
I think it was
a geographic and a lifestyle
choice. I completely agree. I think, if Magic wasn't running the organization, if it were just GM Rob Pelinka and head coach Luke Walton, I still think LeBron would have gone to the. I think LeBron would have gone to the Lakers. I think he wanted to be out west. The Lakers, no offense to the Clippers, but the Lakers are the NBA signature franchise, even though the Clippers have Doc Rivers and are a team that's closer to being a playoff caliber team than the Lakers. I mean, there was such a natural fit. All you had to do was basically give LeBron the contract and not screw that up. I mean, it was pretty much going to. I mean, I don't mean to minimize what Magic did, but I mean that was pretty simple, right?
Yeah, I think it was, and I think it's going to be the easiest move they will make and have made than what they're facing now down the road. I think it's going to be difficult to get somebody to go in there and take a look at that situation. I mean, these free agents go in with a win-now attitude.
Yeah.
They're not into rebuilding. I mean, you know, LeBron even last year, I mean, the 4-year deal kind of tweaked your curiosity, like, what's he doing? Because he would never do that here. I mean, we were always living on, you know, opting in, opting out, year to year with him. But these other guys, they're into win it now.
Right.
So if they don't see that right now, and if they definitely see it as, boy, it's going to be a couple of years, you know, they're not even going to take a meeting with them.
Well, because again, like you pointed out, you're not talking about 30-year-old LeBron. You're talking about 35-year-old LeBron, who, while he's still one of the 5 best players in the NBA for my money, when he's healthy, you're just sitting here going, how much greatness does he have left?
Yeah.
And you know, do I want to, you know, be there on the back end when all of a sudden it's the greatness is over, and have my career basically, you know, attached to whatever he decides to do? It's you know, sometimes it's a tough call to make.
Yeah, it is a tough call to make. It's a very different LeBron, and it has been all year long, even healthy. It was very, very different. It was a funny fit.
Yeah.
It just never. I mean, I remember watching him the first night. And when they played the Houston Rockets and the game ended up in a brawl, and Chris Paul got involved with Rondo and other guys, and it was just a mess. And that was their opening night.
Yeah.
And then, you know, those two guys, you know, Rondo, or was it Ingram?
Yeah.
They got suspended for a long period of time, and the whole thing was a mess. And LeBron didn't even go in and help the Laker guys in the fight. He was helping Chris Paul. The whole thing has been an awkward, funny fit that it really. You know, I don't think it's a big deal out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's as big a deal out there. It will be interesting to see how he handles a non-playoff year, because the last time he faced that was when he was really young.
Yes.
And they were not ready to perform, and those were the Cleveland early years, the Paul Silas years and things like that. And, you know, it would be interesting to see how he handles this. I mean, does he go on TNT every night?
Right.
You know, does he go to ESPN?
Right.
How does he, or does he just disappear? Does he go on a real long sabbatical?
Does he do, I mean, we were always used to this, you know, social media blackout that he would do when the playoffs would start, his Zero Dark 30 23, where he would get off Twitter, get off Instagram, and that was it. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, is he going to be doing Instagram videos of him watching the playoffs, or what?
That's a tremendous ego hit for a guy like that.
Absolutely.
Most of his legend, you know, and I know he scores a ton of points, and he's probably going to be the all-time scorer. If he gets back into pretty good health and longevity and stays in shape, and I mean, he probably could become the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. But really, legends are made in playoffs.
Yep.
Michael Jordan's remembered for the shot.
Yep.
Michael Jordan's remembered for winning with the flu.
Yep.
You know, against the Utah Jazz, hitting a big shot against, you know, or setting up Steve Kerr, or, you
Setting
know,
up
or
Paxson.
for the big shots. They're remembered for that. I mean, that's where legends are crystallized. Chauncey Billups is Mr. Big Shot because he hit big shots in big games. LeBron, for all of the greatness and you know, maybe the greatest player of all time. It's very, very, you know, in the argument, certainly. But for him to handle not being in a 3-month period of time in the real big games, that's going to be tough for him to handle, I think. You know, I mean, I know he loves being around his kids and watching Bronny play, but it's going to be tough watching, you know, all of his buddies play in big games, and he's not in them.
It's going to be a long it's going to be a long summer in Los Angeles. Last thought, and it goes back to a guy you mentioned, Kevin Love. I'm fascinated to see how he is going to be this summer. He's going to have an opportunity to just be healthy and get himself healthy. And, you know, I don't know what the Cavs are going to do with him moving forward. If he seems like he would be the ideal guy to help lead a young team going forward.
Yeah, but
there's also there's a lot of value there.
Well, there's also a lot of missed time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he was hurt right out of the box.
Right.
And that's been the rub. And is it fair to hit a player because he gets hurt a lot? No, probably not. But it is reality. He misses a lot of time. Okay, and you have to nurse him through a season.
Right.
So I wonder how much of a real leader he can be if they're not out there on the floor.
Not out there. Yeah.
How much of a leader can Tristan Thompson be? He can't be a leader at all.
Right.
You know, I don't even know if he can be led.
Right.
I mean, that's just a bad signing. You know, that was a LeBron, Rich Paul push on the Cavaliers after they won the title. You know, LeBron and Rich Paul and those people, they had no trouble spending Dan Gilbert's money.
Yes.
And it was all, it was done with threats. You know, it really was. And Tristan Thompson has been a molecule of the player he was since he signed that big deal. So the Cavs have to
think about J.R. Smith.
Yeah, the Cavs have to decide what's the worth of holding on to players. Kevin Love's a different scenario, but the reality is he misses a lot of time.
Right.
Okay, he's not on the floor.
Right.
He gets hurt. It's just the way it is. I'm not ridiculing him. I'm just saying fact. He misses a lot of time. That's going to be tough for players to look at and say, hey, I'm with him.
Well,
But the other guy, man, I got to tell you, I got a real problem with him and his posture and he hasn't done anything since they won the title.
No, that was a tough year to just see, because Thompson was like he'd be in for 3 games and then he'd miss like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and he'd be back for a week and then he'd miss a month. And
right.
It felt like, and that's part of the decisions they got to make this summer. And can you offload those contracts? Do you want to offload Kevin Love? Can you offload them? I mean,
let me give you a Browns comparison.
Yeah.
It's Jamie Collins.
Yes.
You signed Jamie, you got the trade for Jamie Collins with another administration, I realize, and you're bringing this player in that's blue chip value, and you're getting him from the great New England Patriots. But there's a reason the Patriots got rid of him, okay?
Right.
And, I mean, the Patriots don't get rid of good players, okay?
No.
They get rid of players that don't do it the Patriot way, and that's what he was. But they gave him a big deal after that, okay? And he just didn't live up to the deal. I mean, the bottom line is he did not live up to the deal. And you can keep saying, well, they were flashes of greatness, but flashes do not do it.
No.
They just don't do it. You have to have a guy.
It only works in Kent with
the Golden Flashes.
The Golden Flashes.
But it didn't work there. And I think Jamie Collins is a comparison to a guy like Tristan Thompson.
Yeah. Just keep an eye on that as we go into this NBA offseason. And we'll keep an eye certainly on the Cavs and the Larry Drew situation. But we'll keep an eye on what happens out in Los Angeles, too. Get the popcorn ready for this summer. All right, that'll do it for us. For David Herberton, for Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks for watching tonight's Donovan Live Postgame Show on WKYC's Facebook Live.